All right, good morning, everybody. Friday morning here, and we are going to be hearing from Ledge Council, just a kind of an overview of working with Ledge Council, with their website, how to find things, how to get things that you need that they do, and things not to do. I'm hoping as well. You can be honest with us about things that we should not be asking you to do or inquiring of you. Jen, I can't remember, you haven't been here with the full committee, have you yet? Yeah, okay. Katie's been here, but we'll do introductions so you can sort of officially meet everybody. So, me, Teresa Wood from Waterbury, also served Bolton, Peelspor, and Huntington. And I did you, so we'll go left this time.
Right there, fun. Essex and Essex. Julie McGill, Bridport, Middlebury, New Haven, and Woodbridge. Esme Cole, Hartford.
Zon, Eustis, Guilford, and Vernon.
Good morning, Todd Nielsen. I represent Brandon Forest.
Representative Steady, Milton Westford.
Doug Bishop, represent Colchester, Chittenden 20th District.
Hi, Representative Eric McGuire, Rutland City.
Hi, Dan Noyes. I represent Belvedere, Johnson, Hyde Park, and Woolkit.
And Donahue, Northfield, and Berlin.
Oh, I'm Lori from Duxbury. Committee assistant.
I keep trying to get her to run for the legislature, but I know. Okay, so welcome. Floor is yours. Thank you both for being here, and we I'll let you both talk about what your role is in addition to being our Ledge Council, but your role in Ledge Council. That would be great. So floor is yours.
All right, I will start. My name is Jennifer Tarvey, but you can call me Jen. And I am in the Office of Legislative Counsel. My title at the moment is Deputy Chief Counsel. I spent the last few years as the Director and Chief Counsel, but have stepped back from that because I wanted to spend more time in committee working with individual members and drafting legislation and working on policy issues. So, yes, and I have been with the legislature this is my 18th year.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm Katie McQuinn, Office of Legislative Counsel, and I'm thrilled that I have my partner back. So it's very exciting. I'm the newbie. I've been here for 15 years. Newbie. And what else should you know? I guess we'll just jump in and tell you a little bit about our office. We're hoping that this can be interactive. So if you have questions, please ask us. But we just want to tell you a little bit about how you can work with us, how we can work with you. And we want to empower you to find things on the website because the website's a really good source of information. So we'll try to show you where everything is hidden on the website.
Are you going to talk about sort of this new organizational experiment? Okay.
I will talk about our experiment. First, I'll tell you about our office though. So Legislative Council is made up of about 18 attorneys, and we are sort of like the law firm for all 180 members of the General Assembly. So we're your staff. We each have subject matters that we have more expertise in. So you will tend to see a lot of Jen and myself in this committee, and you might not see an attorney working on transportation very much in this committee. We are nonpartisan staff, so we work for everybody, regardless of your political affiliation, your policy agenda. We want to give you, everybody, the best work product we can. I'll let you.
Yes, my little shorthand is I like to arm all sides and stand back and watch you fight it out. You all have the tools you need so that you can pursue what you want, but then we have no vested stake in the outcome.
Man, that's very funny. I've never heard you say that before. In that way. I like that. Right.
So our goal is to help you achieve your policy goals. We are experimenting with a new structure this year. So in the past, some folks like Jen and I have sort of already worked as a team. A lot of attorneys for Ledge Council have worked more independently. This year, we have a team structure. So there are 4 different teams within Legislative Council. Jen and I are part of the Healthcare, Human Services, Tax, and Education team. And the purpose of the team I think there are lots of purposes of the team. One is that we sometimes have new attorneys that we can provide more mentorship to if we're functioning teams. Occasionally, there's an attorney that may be out sick and it is very hard to fill that spot. So it's helpful to have a team structure that maybe somebody else could jump in and do a walkthrough and report back to that attorney. So I don't think, for the most part, your life will not change. You'll still be seeing a lot of Jen and I. In the event that neither of us are available and you need somebody desperately, you may be seeing one of the other members of our team. So Beth St. James is the education policy attorney. John Gray is the education finance attorney on our team. And Kirby Keaton is the tax attorney. So it's possible one of them may pop in here if we can't be here.
A question, because we are going to have some questions about the childcare contribution and how that's working. And so would we invite, I'm sorry, the last person you said?
Kirby?
Would we invite Kirby to is that person new? I don't remember.
Kirby, he's been here this is at least a second year.
Oh, okay, all right, I just
He
haven't.
was at the tax department for a number of years before that and actually did a.
Okay, actually,
The law clerk in our
answered an education question for me. From a constituent, helped me answer a constituent question earlier this fall. So we would think about inviting him and the tax department, whoever's in charge of that over there. Okay, I'm just trying to think because there's anyways, all right, that's helpful to know.
I mean, you can always still start with us and, and Katie might say, oh, well, if you're interested in this part of that assessment, you'll want to hear from one of her colleagues.
Yeah, go ahead, Representative Steady.
You said your office. I don't know what that is.
Sure. You're jumping ahead in our presentation.
Then wait.
No, it's okay. We want everybody to know, especially for people who have been here for a while, because our offices have moved over the summer. So Jen and I are located in this green building, kitty corner from the State House. Most of the attorneys
down there.
Yeah, it's right, like kitty corner from where we're sitting right now. You could probably throw a rock and hit my office window.
Okay.
But please don't.
Yeah. So most of the legal staff is over there, and HR. If you're looking for the judiciary team, there are 3 judiciary attorneys. They're still in the pink building on the 3rd floor, but everybody else is next door, and we welcome visitors. So come on over.
And so, do we contact you first? I'm not saying I need you, but send you an email. Are you around? Do you have time to talk?
Yeah, I think sending an email is always the best way to get a hold of us because we're back and forth between the buildings. I would hate for you to walk over and not find us there. But you are also welcome to stop by and try your luck and see if you can catch us. But I think a better bet is to send an email first.
Yeah, we can set up a time to meet.
I mean, here I need you right now.
But just you collectively, any.
For people, Lori does have access to the calendar, so when she schedules testimony for us, she will invite the attorneys to the testimony. They may or may not actually come here, but so she might be able to let you know. It's like, oh, it looks like they might have some time, so you could send them a note.
What kind of things do you go to them for?
Well,
I'm just so excited about all this. Okay.
So as we've already said, Jen and I cover healthcare and human services. I do more human services and a little bit of healthcare. Jen does more healthcare and a little bit of human services. You'll see both of us, but we brought sort of the breakdown of the subjects that we covered because we always forget a topic, so we have to use our cheat sheet. Do you want to start and I'll?
Sure. So aging and older Vermonters is one of the areas that I cover, along with, I do a lot on adult protective services. Katie was doing some over the last few years, so we may kind of tag team that a bit.
I cover childhood trauma. So there was a lot of work a couple of years ago on what was called the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and I covered that topic. Childcare, there's been a lot of work on childcare, and I cover that topic. Child protection, neither Jen or I cover that topic. That's the judiciary team. So you might see Michelle here. You might see Ben here.
We did, in fact, see Ben last year.
Yeah. Yes, I think Ben does a lot.
Disposition of human remains. Strangely, I cover that also. Title 18. Usually this committee doesn't deal with that topic. It's usually in House General, but if there is a bill on the disposal of human remains, I will follow the bill there.
Never happens to be.
Oh,
No.
Is there news today? Yes. I must have missed it.
Okay. All right, we're gonna want to know more. End of life issues, I handle those topics in this committee, so advanced directives, do not resuscitate orders and clinician orders for life-sustaining treatment, patient choice at end of life, sometimes referred to as medical aid in dying and similar terms. I will be in here if you're taking that.
I cover topics related to foster care. Thank you. I also cover topics related to food and lodging, so licensure for hotel establishments, food, we call them food establishments instead of restaurants. That's all in Title 18, so I would cover that. Topics related to individuals with disabilities, I cover.
I do long-term care, so nursing homes, assisted living facilities, residential care homes.
If you are interested in cannabis, Michelle covers that, although I would cover topics related to prevention and treatment.
Medicaid, to the extent there are Medicaid issues in this committee, things like choices for care and long-term care Medicaid, I would cover those topics. Prescription drugs. So here again is my sort of shorthand. If people are using prescription drugs the way they are supposed to be used, I handle it. If people are using prescription drugs in a way that is not how they're supposed to be used, we get into Katie's area of substance use disorder. So you may see me in here on prescription drugs. Some of those issues are in healthcare. Some of them have historically been in here.
I cover topics related to public assistance, so Reach Up, 3 Squares, childcare financial assistance program, all falls to me. Issues related to public health, a lot of those tend to go next door, actually, but I would cover those.
I cover tobacco, including vaping and smoking age and all that stuff.
I cover substance use disorder, including medication for opioid use disorder.
That's what there will not be a quiz on that, but that's what you might expect to see us in here.
So what do we do?
So what do? We draft all of the bills and amendments. So everything that this committee would look at, bills that get referred to you, we've drafted all of the bills. We draft a lot more bills than actually get introduced. But I think we're up to, I don't know what, something in the high 600s for drafting requests so far between the House and the Senate this year. So distributed out among the different attorneys when they get introduced and referred to a committee. If this committee takes up bills, depending on which of us drafted the bill, you've got 1 I drafted, 2 Katie drafted, and 1 Michelle drafted. So the attorney will come in here and work with you on understanding what's in the bill, and then working with you to draft any amendments that the committee wants to propose. And when the bill goes to another committee, we follow our bills. So we don't staff committees, we staff issues and bills. And so we would follow our bills and work on them with whatever another committee wanted to do with it. If they wanted to amend your amendment, we would work with them on that. And then when the bill goes to the floor, we draft amendments for any member who wants to amend a bill that's on the floor. So you can amend bills that are not from this committee. You can amend bills on other topics, and we would draft for whatever bill we drafted. We also draft all of the amendments. So that's kind of part of the arming all sides idea, is that we might work with you to draft a bill that's exactly how you want it. And then we might work with other members to draft an amendment that would do something this committee had decided you didn't. That member wants to propose it, and so we will work with them to propose it. We also conduct legal and policy research. So there may be issues that come up while we're working on a topic or on a bill that the committee wants to know more about. And we can do research on that and provide you with what we find or recommend subject matter experts for you to hear from. We do prepare summary documents, section by section documents only upon request. So you have to ask for them if a bill is voted out of committee. And people want to understand better what's in the bill and kind of have a plain English explanation of what's in the bill. We can prepare those section by sections upon request. Typically, it's for longer and more complex bills that might might be harder to follow the big packet of papers.
So, can I interject here just for a minute? So, what Jen was just talking about, those are things that people might use in developing their own floor report. So if you're going to report, if you've been assigned, which would be from me, if you've been assigned to report a bill on the floor, you will prepare a floor report, and we'll walk through that and what all of that entails. But what I really don't want people to do is just stand up and read a section by section summary that Ledge Council has done. You will hear some people do that on the floor, and it's not helpful. So people in this committee won't be doing that. But it can be very helpful in, as Jen just said, in longer bills to help you sort of like think about what are the important points that you may need to bring up. Just wanted to lay that groundwork for if we think in the future you might be interested in reporting a bill. And that's one thing to let me know. Okay, so if you have a particular interest in a bill, that means that you're going to be, and you let me know that, and we've agreed that you'll be the person to report that. That means you have sort of the intensity. You're the sort of like most intense person about what's happening with that bill. You got to follow all of the testimony. And you have to be thinking about, honestly, thinking about witnesses, you're thinking about all of that kind of stuff. So we'll talk more about that when we actually get to taking a bill off the wall. But it's a lot of responsibility to report a bill on the floor because you're representing the work of our committee, sometimes the work of our committee over the course of many weeks. So it's important, but I just wanted to stress like the section by sections are very helpful, but they're not your floor report.
And they are fairly labor intensive. So we're happy to do them if they are helpful, but that's why we only do them upon request. Anything you want to add on that? What we do? Confidentiality, we just wanted to remind you that everything that we do with you individually is, as far as your policy goals and legislation, is confidential, meaning we don't talk about it. You can talk to whoever you want, but you can talk to us about amendment you're thinking of proposing, and we're not going to tell even the chair. We can't tell the chair. We work just with you. You're our client. And unless and until you decide you want that information shared more broadly, we keep it to ourselves. So same thing goes when we're working on a draft bill for members. Drafting requests and amendment requests are all confidential unless and until a member makes them public.
And making them public can also mean saying to Ledge Council, you can share this with.
Oh, we can.
Yes, but you have to give permission for that to happen.
We will not tell anybody else, including, and this happens all the time, members will say, has anybody requested a bill on a topic? And I say, I can't answer that. If you would like to put in a request, I will take the request. And if somebody is already working on that, I'll try to, pair you up on a request. But it is not for us to go around telling people what you're working on.
Does that also apply to previous sessions or biennium?
Yes. I mean, if we worked on something with you and you never made it and you never introduced a bill, we don't talk about, it's still confidential.
Well, if a bill was introduced, let's say on transparency, like 6 years ago, never got off the wall, and then I request it again. So is it on me to go look and see if it was introduced before, or would you be able to tell me this bill was introduced before it was never?
So if anything is once a bill is introduced, once a bill technically is approved for introduction, it is public. So the confidentiality goes away when the bill gets introduced or is approved for introduction. So then it's fine. We can say, you can say there's a bill, but we could say, oh, do you like this one that was introduced 6 years ago? You can say, oh, I want to make some changes to that. And then we don't talk about the fact that you've asked for a pay transparency bill until you introduce it.
Okay.
Doug Benzon.
A question, you said that confidentiality goes away, but is that only with respect to the fact that the bill was introduced? Because I may have conversations with you and say, I'm thinking about this, but we don't ever do that.
Exactly.
So that remains confidential.
You're exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
So our attorney-client communications, are you our attorney member?
I am
Okay, so
a reformed attorney.
our attorney-client. Sorry. Our attorney-client communications are all confidential and remain confidential. It's the text of what is introduced is not confidential once the text has been introduced. But the fact that we went through 4 drafts and you changed your mind about how you want to approach it, we don't say, well, this is where we landed, but he thought about all these other things.
Okay. And one other question related to confidentiality. Understand the one-on-one communication is confidential. Are there times where you are acting on behalf of the committee and we are all your clients and there's confidentiality, or is that?
Generally,
happen in
no,
public?
because what you are doing is happening, in open session. It's being recorded. Anytime you're doing the work of the committee, it should be public. Open, there's constitutional provision on the doors of the State House being open. So everything you're doing in your committee capacity with very few exceptions, is public and not confidential. And that includes if we're working on a committee bill. So if the committee decides to take up a topic that no individual member has introduced a bill on or has, and the committee wants to do a different approach, the fact that the committee has requested a bill is not confidential.
Right.
If we're working on something for the chair, she's not ready to make public yet. She's our individual client in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
So clarification, just what is introduction? I mean, at which point does something, is that,
yes.
so when it's read in the house?
Exactly, that's exactly it.
These were read in house already?
They're read the first time.
It's all new to me, so I probably go
Yeah.
right now till
The
I.
speaker in the morning, like this morning.
That's it. Representative Garofano.
Yay,
Ray.
feel better. Okay.
Okay. When the speaker, in the morning, like this morning, there were several bills for introduction. She will not read the whole bill because there's so many that are being introduced at the beginning of the session. So she will introduce them by number and say what committee they're being assigned to. And then once that happens, then Lori will make a printout and put the card up there.
And so that tells you the ones that have been assigned to our committee so far. And the speaker's office, in consultation with the clerk of the House, makes a determination. And sometimes they will contact me and say, well, this could be your committee or it could be a different committee. What do you think? And then, we give our opinions about it. And so, and then you also may find sometimes they'll make a first blush at it. And after we actually read it and think about it, it really maybe should go to a different committee. And I might ask to be relieved of this bill and we send it to a different committee. So there's all a formal process for all of that to happen. But once you see that number up there on the bill, on the board, it's been introduced. And that means that we can at any time take those bills up for discussion or action.
And you. No, we're here.
Yeah, go ahead and ask.
We're here.
Do you have a question? Go ahead and ask, Brenda. It's okay.
Oh, you sure? So these, let's say they've already been read. So where does it go from this wall?
Right, if they
You
say,
just told me, but do we have a part in that or?
once they're on this wall, they've been assigned to our committee.
Okay.
Okay, so we are the committee that may or may not take action. So we will see, that board will be full by the time we get to the end of the second year of the biennium. Okay, and we will not take up all of those bills. We'll make decisions about which bills we're going to take up. So this morning I said that there were going to be 2 priority things that we're going to be working on before crossover. One, an emergency shelter bill, and then H13, which is the Medicaid rate bill. Those are going to be 2 things that we take up before crossover. And there will be an emergency shelter bill that comes out that Jubilee has sponsored. And it was essentially a bill that we passed last year. That
It already passed?
Well, it passed out of our committee and it passed out of the House. It did not make it through the Senate. So we're going to give it another try. So that will be coming out sometime in the near future. Okay.
So just to close the loop a little bit on introduction doesn't happen without you knowing it. So if you request a bill, and we work on a bill for you and you look at various drafts, at some point you say, yes, I am ready to introduce the bill, or I approve the bill for introduction, or I'm ready to go on this bill. And then you tell us if you have any co-sponsors, who've agreed to sign on your bill. And then our office, through our drafting operations unit, works on actually getting the bill prepared for introduction. But it's not like you thought you were still working on it and suddenly it's introduced. You control that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, should we move on to this part? All right. I think we have a nice segue here to how to read a bill. And I've picked a couple for us to look at, but one of them, so I am going to put these up on the screen. One of them is one the chair just, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I just didn't know if you were going to talk about short forms.
Oh, I would love to talk about short forms.
Awareness. Yeah.
I don't know. I could, but we could just talk about it, but we'll talk about it. We're gonna show you, a long form.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna show you what it would mean if it was a short form.
So usually when a member requests a bill, if they don't specify that they want a short form, what they're looking for is a long form or a standard form bill. And in that case, that means that the whole bill, all of the mechanics to do the thing that you asked for are going to be part of the bill. It's going to be a complete functional bill that puts the provisions you've asked for in place. There is also such a thing as a short form bill. And unlike a long form or standard form bill, all of the mechanics to do the thing that you've asked to do are not there. It's a bill that has a title, and it's a bill that has a statement of purpose of the bill is introduced. And it's in that statement of purpose where we're spelling out the concept or the idea that the member is interested in introducing. That still is treated like any other bill in that it is introduced. It's referred to a committee and a committee can take action on it and work collectively to sort of flesh out the ideas in that bill. Your legal staff enjoys receiving short form requests because we just have so many bills that we process. In general, we process about 1,000 bills a year. So to the extent you might not have all the details you need yet to put a standard form or a long form in place, a short form is a great way to get your idea out in front of the body. It doesn't mean it won't get work done. This committee has worked on many short form bills, but it sort of delays the work in that a bill that's actually getting airtime is the one that we're focusing our attention on instead of one that might not ever come off the wall.
And it's also these women won't say it, but I'll say it's also respectful of the use of our legislative council's staff time. Because as I just said, 1,000 bills over the biennium are going to get introduced and in the House and in the Senate when we think about the totality. And honestly, there are, a handful or two that ever get all the way through the process. So, putting together, it's not that they won't do it, because of course they will, but we have taken several short form bills off the board and started working on them, and particularly when there's going to be sort of a lot of discussion back and forth and lots of ideas, and maybe it's sort of a I've been using this word a lot, haven't I, Lori? Organic process. If it's going to be an organic process, a short form is actually a good way to get the idea, get the concept up there, and then pull it off the board to sort of dig in and do the committee work on it. So
one clarification I do want to make is that there's one additional step with the short form that does not exist for a standard form, and that's that the committee has to vote to have the bill
taken off. Yeah.
Yeah, to have the bill drafted as a standard form. That's in your House rules. So it's generally by the time, the committee has decided to take the bill up, that's not an issue, but there is just that additional procedural step.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Zon.
Clarification. So we vote to take the short form bill, as it were, potentially off the wall. We vote that, and then we vote to
And then when we're done with the bill,
If we're done with, what we're doing with it, we request it become a long form.
So that's one vote to, I mean, you can take up a bill, but to actually have us start drafting it as a standard form when it was a short form, that's what requires vote. So you don't have to vote to take it off the wall and then vote again to have it
I see.
drafted as a standard
All right, all
form.
right.
It's just,
Thank you.
yeah, it's just the, to have it drafted part.
And there's no, you're not gonna be penalized for having a short form on the wall. Like, I don't think a chair is gonna say, boy, it's not really, you haven't really thought this out. It's the whole bill's there. It's the concept. Because we'll often take long forms and rewrite the whole thing.
Sometimes you might prefer a short form because it will save
Strike all.
All right, so let's look at how to read a bill. We're going to look at two different ones just to show you, one from this year and one from last year, just to show you them at different stages. But this is actually H13, which is one of the ones the chair mentioned. And you can see when you're looking at the bill as introduced, first of all, it says up at the top, bill as introduced, so you know what version you're looking at. As opposed to something that has already passed one or more chambers. You can see who it was introduced by. So it was introduced by the chair and Representative Noyes. The next two lines are blank because this is what the clerk's office fills in once on the official version of the bill. They handwrite in, I believe, which committee it was referred to and the date it was referred. There are some subjects listed, and so this is part of what Legislative Council does. We try to kind of distill it into the big topics that are being dealt with in the bill that somebody who was looking up a bill on the website might use to try to find bills that they're interested in or to find a specific bill. So we try to start with the largest topic, which is often, it's actually more the name of the title of the statute book than the committee, but in our case here, it's the same. So human services, and then a little bit more detailed after that. And then we have the statement of purpose of the bill as introduced. So this is part of what Katie was talking about. In a short form bill, this is all you would have. You wouldn't have the legislative language that actually makes the changes that are, or does the actions described in here. But it always starts with this bill proposes to, but notice that it's the statement of the purpose of the bill as introduced. So this is only in the bill when the bill is introduced. This does not get updated. We don't have statement of purpose of bill as passed by the House. It's just the purpose of the bill as introduced. And it should be a plain English. The attorneys are responsible for putting it into an objective, plain English description of what the bill does. So in our directions to newer attorneys, we say things, avoid words, value-based words like improves, or descriptions of things as being good or bad. They just are. And so this is describing what the bill does. We're trying to distill it into, something fairly short. It's a 7-page bill. It's a little bit of a long paragraph, but that's it. And then you get into the bill itself that does all the things that this statement says it does.
go ahead, Doug.
So just to ensure that I'm clear, you said the statement of purpose does not change. So it could be introduced with the purpose is to streamline the rules for in-home childcare. And ultimately, what's below that could be rules for center-based childcare centers. Just because the nature of how things develop in the process, or will you ever amend the statement of purpose?
We never amend the statement of purpose because it goes with the bill as introduced. But when the bill is passed, and when the act is enacted, it doesn't have this statement of purpose on it. It's it just does the action. So this is just at the introduction stage.
Yeah.
And sometimes so frequently there will be a strike all amendment where everything that was in the bill as introduced comes out and something new goes in and the title of the bill changes. And that's all fine down the road, but it doesn't change what it said, the bill said when it was introduced.
So I'll give you an example, a quick example of that. That's the child care bill.
Yeah, that's what I had my hand on.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. So the child care bill, there was one from the House, there was one from the Senate, and that their intent was creating this new system of paying for our child, increasing our childcare workers' wages and increasing access to childcare. And it wound up in a bill at the end of the day. I think,
Workers' comp bill.
a workers' comp bill, introduced by, someone who did not end up voting for the bill. So yeah, it can, really be.
There's only one section of that bill that made it the whole way without changes.
I'm curious.
Oh, it was codified. I'll have.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that was an unusual circumstance, but, well, not that unusual actually, but it happens. And what Jen just said was like at the end, so, and is it always the last thing? Like upon passage, this bill will be known as, it changes the title of the
Sometimes
bill.
it changes, sometimes.
So that bill came out with a title that was just about workers' comp. And of course, we wanted, for people to be able to search, and when it's in the stuff, the title of the bill got changed to include childcare financial assistance or something like that.
I just add, we do act summaries if the bill is actually enacted, so there is an opportunity to see a summary of what actually passed.
I love those act summaries.
If we make it to the part of the presentation about the website, we'll show you where
Otherwise, we'll come back. And then there's a title, and so the titles of the bills all start with an act relating to. And again, we're trying to distill it down into a simple, plain English description that gives enough information about what the bill is or does to distinguish it from another bill. So if it just said an act relating to Medicaid, you'd have no idea what this bill did or how it was different from any other bill on Medicaid. So we're talking a little bit more about, and this one's a little longer than some of them, but Medicaid payment rates for home and community-based service providers and designated and specialized service agencies. So it's so now you know what the bill is about, and it helps it get referred to the right committee and helps people understand what it is before they start reading the rest of it. And then I'm going to talk about a little more, and then Katie's going to talk to you about what you're looking at. Still not getting into substance, but just how to read it. So you'll see the enacting clause here. It is hereby enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Vermont. That's required language from the Vermont Constitution, that all bills have to say that. And so when you look at a strike all amendment, it will say by striking out all after the enacting clause. This is the enacting clause. And then we have sections of the bill. So you'll see Sec 1, and there's line numbers on the bills that help to Sec 2 here on line 1. And it will go through with everything that's labeled Sec 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, is a section of the bill as opposed to a section of statute or something else. And now I'll turn it over to Katie to talk about.
Okay. So we have two sort of types of law that we sometimes refer to, and I just said it, that was something that was codified, and I pointed to the Green Book. So sometimes we are codifying things into the Green Books, and you'll also hear us say session law. So what is the difference between those two things? Session law is usually time-limited law. They both have equal importance, they're both law. But session law is something of a time-limited duration that we don't need to preserve forever in the Green Books for everybody to see. A great example of that is a reporting requirement. You ask for a report next year. It's law. The report has to be done. But after the report has been submitted by the agency, there's not really a reason to keep in the Green Books forever and ever moving forward the requirement that a report was a one-time report was required. If it's an ongoing report, it probably will be in the Green Books because that's language that we'd want people to be able to find in the future to know that this report is required on an ongoing basis. Our effective dates are always session law because after the act takes effect, we don't really need to hold on to all of the language about Section 1 took effect this date, Section 2 took effect this date. It's in effect, although the Green Books will note that.
I always get confused, Katie, about like when we're in a bill and part of the bill is in session law and part of the bill is codified. And how do we tell the difference when we're in the bill?
That was the very next thing I was going to tell you.
Okay.
What the Green Books are.
Oh, yep, I can do that. So you have a set of Green Books. There they are. Each book is a title of the Vermont statutes annotated. Some titles are divided over 2 books. Title 18, which you will be working in plenty, is divided over 2 books because there have been so many laws passed. We had to break it into 2 volumes. But if you were to pull out one of those books, you would see that all of the sections are numerically ordered. The title is broken into different chapters by topic. And within each of those chapters, there could be subchapters or maybe not. And then the sections have titles, so you can sort of follow along and see what each of those sections is about. As a title is amended, we don't republish a whole new green book every single year. So instead, there are these little supplements that are at the back of each book. So if you pull out a book and you're looking for section 102, and you know that we adopted a 102 last year, where is it? It's probably in the supplement. And when the supplement gets very large after however many years, that's when a new actual green book is published.
And so those are the statutes, just to be clear. We often refer to them as the green books because they're green and everybody knows, but those are, when you hear about statutes, what's in statute, those are the statutes.
Go ahead, son.
So the bill that we were talking about a little while ago that had a certain title but got severely amended, where does that show up? I mean, is it in the wrong title book or when you're looking things up or?
No. So what happens, well, let me show you this line 7 first. So this is sort of our directions about where this piece of legislation is going.
I see.
So in section 1, we're saying, we're going to be dealing with Title 33. VSA stands for Vermont Statutes Annotated. Section symbol, that squiggly line, 900. So that's telling us that in Title 33, the existing section 900 is going to be amended. And when you see this VSA section number as lead-in language, you know this is language that's going in the green books. So the bill that you just brought up, it will have multiple different sections, and each section will have different instructions about what's being amended.
Oh, I see.
So maybe the first half of the bill, all of those sections went into, I don't know what title. And then the second half of the bill, all of those amendments went into a different title. So in the green books, that full bill will never be like showed together again. It will always be sort of distributed in the appropriate logical place. If you want to see the bill all together as one, we have books for that. We have, do you not have any? Oh, there they are. You have those white books. So each of those white books is everything that was published in a particular year by act number. So you'll have, those are old ones?
2020 was split.
Okay.
We'll send it.
So that,
You're gonna go to the website. I mean, I think everybody uses the website at this point in time.
It's also there, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to know why you have these books.
Okay. I was like, I wanted to get rid of the green books, to be perfectly honest. I have not seen, since my first year here, anybody go up and refer to those.
Fairly frequently.
You do? All right, we'll leave them here for you, Jen.
History notes in it.
Yeah, I like that history notes
Yeah,
too.
there's information about what changed over time.
Paper.
So the A
Paper, right?
part, the annotated part of the VSA is the value add in the physical books.
I know, a lot of people still like to have paper. Okay.
So those books are literally just every single act that was passed in a particular year. So we've just looked at this line 7. So this is how you know that we're directing our publisher to put this particular amendment into the green books. But you'll also see lead-in language that looks different. Is there a part? Okay. So here is session law, and you'll see that after section 4, you don't have that like direction of where we're putting this. It's just all capitalized with any direction. So this is still good law. It will still be published in the white books. It will still be available online when you click on act, whatever this act would become. But you won't be able to find it in the green books. So still good law, hard to find sometimes. But that's how you can sort of distinguish where this language is going. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm like, duh, Teresa is what.
Yes, a lot of people are not aware of that distinction.
I also just wanted to touch on briefly, particularly for our new members, because I know this is just comes so naturally after you've been here for a year. But the way we show what is happening in a bill is underlying and striking. So this is an existing statute of law. You see right here that it says is amended to read. So we're amending existing law. The language that we are proposing to remove will be struck through. The language that we're proposing to add is underlined. If this was a whole new section that was, being added for the first time, your lead-in language would be the section is added to read, and then everything would be underlined to show that this is all new language.
That makes sense? For the most part. All right, I wanted to also show you, let's see, an act from an earlier session. So this is from the last biennium. And this is a bill that went through this committee, and it was started as a Senate bill, but became law. So, and we'll be showing you how to look at things on the website more in a moment anyway. But you can see in this case, it tells you that this on the bill status page, that the bill was enacted. It has an act number. It'll show you who originally sponsored it. And so this is what Representative McGill was saying, that if a bill changes completely in its contents, it may show at the end that the sponsor is somebody who actually did not support the final bill. I think in this case, the sponsor was still supporter. I don't think it changed that much throughout. And you can see there's all these different versions of the bill as introduced, as passed the first chamber. And so I'm going to show you this one because there's what are called official and unofficial versions. And the official version is the one that the House Clerk's Office, or Senate Secretary in this case, puts out. It keeps that same bill as introduced and as passed by the first chamber. And then it has these red X's, or Z in this case, through the language that was struck from the bill as introduced. So in this case, you can see it was a strike all amendment. And then what's here in red italics is what was passed instead, what the Senate proposed instead of the language in the bill as introduced. And so these two, this strike through with big red Z, backward Z, and the italics is the official version. If we look at the unofficial version, which is called that because it's what our office puts out, it's just a clean version where you can see just what the Senate actually passed without the original language and the big backward Z and the italics. So this is what you'll usually see us bring in when we come with a bill that has been, come over from the Senate to talk to you about in here. We like to use, for the most part, this clean version unless there were very minimal amendments and it's easier to read the other document.
Go ahead, Doug.
You're talking about a bill that was ultimately passed. Would there be, as it's going through the process, but before passage, are there clean and
Yep, so you can see here's the bill status, back to the bill status page. As passed by Senate stage, there's both.
Okay.
House proposal amendment as passed by both. And then finally, you get, when it's enacted, you get both the act as enacted, which is the way it appears in the white book, and the act summary. So I'll just click on both of these quickly. You can see when it has an act, it has an act number, and it reminds you what the bill number was, and then it's just the language that passed. So there's none of that statement of purpose of the bill as introduced or anybody's name. And then if you wanted to just understand what happened, what it actually did, you can see here, and this is one of Katie's bills, so she would have written this act summary, just summarizing what happened in it, what the act does. Which is maybe a good segue to the website generally.
I was thinking of maybe just, I know I'm going out of order, but staying on this page
Okay.
as long as we're here.
Oh, I gave you the wrong one.
It does. See what we can do in 10 minutes.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna check in and make sure that you have sufficient time to get through so if we should stop asking questions till you get through your presentation, that's
Some of
okay.
this you might already know. The point is to be useful. So if you already know this, we can skip ahead. So this is a great way to sort of understand where the bill is in the process. If you scroll down on this page, you have information about the movement of the bill between the two bodies and what is happening on the floor. This can be particularly helpful if you're following a bill and it's gone over to the Senate side and you're not sitting there to know what happens. You could sort of see, oh, it passed second reading. Oh, an amendment was offered on it. What was that amendment? And you can click. Well, do we have an example of that?
Yeah, that was a lot. Go back.
Oh, here's an amendment right here. No,
No, it was. That one says text.
thank you. Okay, so there was a
It's
house
not quite the same, sorry.
proposal amendment, but just if somebody had offered a floor amendment, then you could click on this link, which would be the page in the calendar. Or the journal. And then it would show you what happened in the other body. So if this had been text of a floor amendment, you could go and see what that floor amendment had been. Okay.
There's a, never mind. I was just gonna say, there's generally more floor amendments in the Senate than there are in the House.
It really depends on the bill.
Yeah.
If you can move tabs, so this tab was about the status of the bill. There's also a tab about the committee activity. So this might show you the different committees that this particular bill visited and when the different committees had possession of the bill. There's also, I wanted to show this. So the staff, the person who worked on the bill is listed. So if you're wondering who can do an amendment or answer a question on this bill, you can look it up yourself, or if you can't find this, you can still reach out to Jen and I and we'll redirect you to the right person if we need to. So that kind of gives you, also, I wanted to show this. So the staff, the person that worked on the bill is listed. There's nothing worse than the sound of your own voice. A quick way to find a particular act is just to go up here to this bar and you can type in S302, S1, and then it will bring you to the appropriate page for that bill. And you're seeing here that we're searching in a different session, and that's a really important tool. I think if you're wondering, like, what did we do last session? The default for the website is to be working, showing you information from the current biennium, but you have the ability to search former bienniums, both with regard to the bill numbers, but also like what was the committee activity last biennium? When we took up this bill, we heard a great witness. Who was that? And you can go back and search an old biennium to find that. So I'm gonna move us to the current session. I know all of the returning members already know this, but for new members, you have all this great information right on the front page of the website. So every day I know you're checking the House calendar to know what the action is going to be that day, and it's right there. You also have the current journal, so you know what happened yesterday.
Do people know the difference between the journal and the calendar?
Say it, I do, but say it.
So the calendar is what is happening today. There's also a notice calendar. What is going to be coming up tomorrow? So it gives you sort of like an agenda for what is going to happen on the House floor on this particular day. And under notice, that gives you a heads up on what bills are going to be coming up. So if you want to read about them in advance, you can do that. Conversely, the journal is what happened yesterday. What did we vote on? What amendments were offered? That would be found in the journal.
Right, and those are really for the House calendar is like the next legislative day or the legislative day you're on if you haven't been on the floor yet, or the tomorrow if you've already been on the floor. And the journal, again, is the previous legislative day. So for Tuesday, it'll be Friday.
Mhm.
The other thing for people, if you were a person who likes paper, when you're coming in, the back entrance, right there on the left-hand side by the copy room, especially at the end of the session when there's a lot of bills that are going back and forth and both, you might want to pick up, or I do anyways, I pick up a version of both the House and the Senate calendar there, sometimes the journal too, but there are hard copies right there by the copy center.
And I know I just want to flag for you that the streaming link is here, which I realize you're probably not going to use a lot, but maybe your constituents might want access. Or I said this in healthcare, didn't go over too well, but like when you're home with the stomach bug that's going around and you want to know what your colleagues are up to, you can hit your streaming link and you can follow along on the House floor. So you know what's going on, or you could see what's happening on the Senate the floor. So that information is available there. You can quickly navigate to a committee's page up on this bar. I think just by typing it in, oops. And that should bring us right to the only committee that has a matching title. That's one way to navigate to your committee page. I think a much easier way to do that is to click on committees, and then there's a link for all of the different committees. I think this is sort of self-explanatory, but it might be worth noting that there are some committees that are joint committees, and you can access them through this committee link as well. For example, LCAR, if you want to know what LCAR is up to, you could get to their page.
LCAR is the Legislative Committee on
Thank you.
Administrative Rules.
Alphabet soup, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know we're pretty much running out of time, but I think maybe the most important thing for you to spend a moment on is your committee page. I'm guessing that this would be the page that you use the most often. This is one of the pages I use the most often. I want to flag for you here that we are looking at information from this biennium, and this is where you drop down to see information from old bienniums. So if you wanted to go back and look at what testimony you received on a particular bill in 23-24, you drop down there. Your agenda is always available to you. Same thing, your live stream link is here. You can go back and see the agenda for previous meetings. Your testimony, your written testimony is organized by day. So you could click on today's date and you would get all of the written testimony that was going to be presented to you on a particular day. So I don't know if you have anything today. Oh, you do. There you go. You have
That
lots.
was yesterday.
Oh, just kidding.
Friday.
It's felt like a very long week. Okay, so this is the testimony the written testimony you received yesterday. But if you couldn't remember what day you heard from Amy Davenport, you could also go to witness. And you could find her name that way, and you could pull up any testimony that she's provided all session long. If you were interested in a particular bill and you want all of the written testimony from a particular bill in one place, then this tab will start having all of the bills listed in it. So you could just click on the bill and all of the testimony related to that bill will be there, including drafts. What else? Other documents?
Question about searching by witness. If we search Amy Davenport, for example, that was a joint hearing with judiciary, but if she comes back to judiciary
Mhm.
and we're not involved, will we click on
No,
or type in?
it'll be specific to your committee. If you wanted her testimony that she only provided to judiciary, you'd have to access it through their webpage.
There's another way to find it too, with some of the research tabs,
Okay.
where you can search by witness and see where what she's testified on anywhere in the billing.
Okay, thank you.
So you have other documents. Budget is a great example, like all of the documents related to budget adjustment are in one place. You're doing your oversight and accountability work, and that is all in one place. And then you have a link for reports and resources. So any reports that have come in that you are particularly interested in, Lori might put them there. There's also another place to get all of the reports that are coming in. That is this reports and research tab. I've been talking for a while. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. So here under reports and research, if you go to the left-hand side and click on find legislative reports, this reports and research overview is really telling people how to submit reports and things like that. But if you go to find legislative reports, you can find everything that has come in this year, that has actually come in for the last several years. And you can refine the results. So if you wanted to find everything that had come in on childcare, you could type childcare and it would refine to just report names or submitting authorities that use the phrase childcare. So you can sort them like that. It doesn't do a full text search in this box. So if you're looking, so you'd have to be thinking about what names might be, what words might be in the title.
And for committee, Lori and I were just talking about this yesterday. She's going to take all the reports that were due to our committee that are in this big, long list and put them on our committee page.
We can send you our list because we've already culled them out with links. And we have links for everything that's coming in. We have a big shortcut for you. All right,
I apologize. I have to be at a.
No, there's no reason to
I know,
apologize.
so I'm gonna sit here and
Thank you.
navigate as long as you want me to.
Thank you. And thank you. Appreciate it a lot.
So back on your committee page, another thing that will have a lot more in it once you have more bills referred to is this bills in and out of committee tab. So next to the documents and handouts tab is bills in and out of committee. And you can see which ones have been referred to the committee, which will typically match what's on the wall with maybe a few minute delay, lag for Lori to actually create the card for the latest ones. You can see if there have been ones, when there are ones that have been voted out, they will show up in the out of committee. Referred to committee will give you everything that was referred, whether it is currently in or out of the committee. And sponsored by committee is any committee bills that this committee does. So that can be a helpful way to, if you're looking to just see what's on the docket, what's a possibility, what's currently in the committee, you can use that site. Previous meetings can be helpful for agendas from prior weeks. And again, here is your live stream link. I'm going to go up to some of these tabs up at the top of we'll go back to the main homepage, but they're on every page. These tabs. And if the bills and resolutions one does have a full text search. So if you wanted to, you can search for a bill. If you know the number, you can search for an act number in this biennium, or you can change to a previous biennium. You can search by keyword, which is usually the words that were in that subject line on the bill we looked at. So go for bigger topics, or you can do a full text search that it's fairly good. It's not always 100%, but it's pretty good at searching bills and acts and coming up with the results. So that's one thing you can do from that page. You can look at bills that have been released for introduction. You can get a list of all bills introduced in the House or Senate or both. You can look at bills vetoed by the governor. So if you wanted to go back to last biennium and see which bills were vetoed and which ones were enacted over the veto, enacted without signature, et cetera. Also resolutions. And then here's a place, this is where we typically access, or at least I do, one of the places, the acts and resolves. So the white book, you wanted to look at the list of all the acts. We'll change our biennium so we actually get results. A little early for acts biennium. But you can see they're arranged in act order. You can, again, refine the results for anything that appears on the page. So it's not a full text search, but it will go through and pull out the ones that use the word or words you type in here. And then here's another way to get to legislative reports and research.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Jen, sorry. Is there an easy way, when you're looking up acts, because you don't know what year they were?
Yes. No, there is not.
Like for everybody.
Yes, not on this current website. I think they're working on some updates that hopefully will go live at some point in the next couple of years. That I think will make that easier, but at this point you just have to change the session and search. Yes, that's what we do as well. Sometimes you can ask us and, we've been here a while, sometimes we'll remember, or sometimes we'll have other thoughts on how.
We're trying to do this during agenda planning. Was that 23? We're not sure. Go ahead, Jen.
Would another option possibly be if it's codified?
It's codified, yes.
Okay.
And yes,
At
and
the
in
end of the
fact,
section.
if you happen to know that it amended you're looking for an act that amended a particular section of law, that is a good sort of shortcut would be to go to the statutes, and we'll pick something in 18, because I know those. And say you wanted to know when we made some changes around remote auditing for advanced directives. And I would say, oh, that's right, well, we amended this statute. So let's look at the statute, and then down here at the end, it says when it was added and when it was amended. And so that can help us narrow down the dates. And then actually, if you look at the Green Book itself, it will give you, and the supplement, it will give you the history of what changed when. And so we can help walk back when and pinpoint when something happened. Thank you. It's a good.
Oh, you just asked, yeah.
Or you can just ask, yes. And that's what we will do to try to.
Unless it's Saturday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yes.
right?
Which I will Monday,
That's true.
unless it's a holiday and it's one on Tuesday. All right, so.
Monday's a holiday, remember that, everybody.
Yes. While we are here on the Vermont Laws tab, so again, this is where you can access the statutes, you can search the statutes, you can look at the Vermont Constitution, you can look at the acts and resolves, you can search bills, acts, and resolutions. And over here, if you were ever needing to look at agency rules, so agencies adopt rules implementing statutory provisions, typically when directed by the General Assembly. But all of those state agency rules are available through this tab, and it takes you to a LexisNexis page. A few things I'll show you under the House tab, in case you haven't looked. We were talking to House Healthcare about this yesterday, and they said there used to be, for those of you who are returning, there used to be a chart where you could see everybody's seat on the floor, on the House floor. Where is that? So if you go to House Overview, and we'll go back to our current, I don't know if it'll, okay, it's not really carrying it, we're in a different vein. If you go into House Overview and you click on House Seating Chart, it will pull up an overview of the House chamber and tell you who sits in the House. This is why you're doing this.
I found that the other day.
And so I do this a lot at the beginning of a biennium because I don't recognize most of the new members. And so I'm like, who is that person? Oh, so it's great.
I have that tab like permanently open.
Some other things to know from the House tab is that you can find the House rules. So if somebody's telling you that something is in the House rules, this is where you will find the House rules, and then there's some joint rules, joint House and Senate rules, typically according to the building.
Market.
Also, another question that came up yesterday was, where do you find your caucus streaming links? And if you go under the House to streaming links, you can find not just the House chamber, but also the House caucuses, and they have a YouTube channel. So those are good ones to know about. What else can I show you that's in here? There's all the same stuff in the Senate that there is in the House if you want to look at the Senate rules or some of their streaming links. The Joint Fiscal Office has its own website, so if you click on the Joint Fiscal Office tab, it will take you to a separate website that's organized differently. Reports and research, we talked some about. You can find legislative reports. Here in the middle column is when I mentioned you could look up witnesses and where a witness has testified. So if you click on witness history, it'll give you committee meeting history by witness. So since we were talking about Amy Davenport, we can start typing Amy. You have to type at least 3 others, all the Amy's. So now I can click on Amy Davenport and search. And here's what it tells us, and it's got her listed, I think because it was a joint hearing, it's got her listed under both this committee and House Judiciary. And if you go to details, it'll bring you to the agenda for that day, and you can see at least what the topic was that the person was testifying. And that can really help you figure out if you're looking for somebody's testimony or you want to go back and watch something, it can be helpful to look at that and then use the agenda to figure out which day they talked about the topic you're interested in. So that's sort of a fun one. You can, if you're interested in exemptions to the Public Records Act, you can find them all in one place here.
The other thing that I just for folks in constituent service, I always give them the link to the legislative homepage because there's so much information there. And I mean, you can't really explain it all to them, but if you give them the link to it, then they, you know, I've had lots of people, you know, thank me for that because they wouldn't have necessarily found it on their own and they didn't realize all the stuff that was there. And you can link them to, if you're letting them know about a public meeting, opportunity for a public meeting, that's right on the front page. And they can, oftentimes you're going to be required to sign up for testimony. Usually, you know, there's like 3-minute limits and stuff like that. That's right on the, so you can see one right there, public hearing on the governor's budget adjustment. And you can let people know that they can sign up there. And so it's a good tool for you in constituent services.
Just did that.
Mhm.
That's great.
And actually, while we're here on the homepage, this scheduled meeting, committee meetings tab is pretty crowded this time of year. But when we are during the legislative interim, when we're not in session, this can be a good way to see which study committees or oversight committees are meeting, because that's just a shorter list of kind of what's coming up. Couple more things under the State House. There's all kinds of cool stuff, especially if you've got constituents asking you questions about how to get here or how a bill becomes a law or how you do a school field trip, how to set up a school field trip. You can look at State House floor maps. I still have to use this sometimes because people have increasingly started using room numbers and I don't know the room numbers. I just know what committee meets in those rooms. So sometimes I use the State House floor maps to figure that out. Staff and offices. So if you want to know about leadership in the House and Senate or about any of the staff offices and get I think in some of them at least, you can get a list of names or who to contact. Yes, you can get a list of all of the attorneys here and our drafting operations who really support the attorneys' work. So probably won't be talking to them directly.
One thing that you and Katie didn't mention is, so oftentimes when we're in committee and we're done with an amendment or we're done with a bill, talk about editing, like has to go through editing.
Oh, that's a great point. Yes. So everything the attorney draft, all bills, all amendments, we need to have edited by our legislative editors. We have 3 wonderful editors who are part of our drafting operations team. There's also some drafting coordinators who are processing all the materials. But the editors are looking through to make sure that we are using the correct version of the statute, that what we are underlining and striking through matches up with what is currently in the statute. So we're getting it right. They're making sure our grammar is accurate. They're looking for a proper spacing and formatting. So they are an important step in the process. And sometimes that means you vote something out of here. And if you haven't given us, if you're working on something and I'm drafting along while we're talking, it's going to need to be edited before it's going any further. So you always have to build in some time for editing. Thank you. And they are awesome and sort of the unsung hero of drafting operations, I would say. And so a couple other things just at the very bottom. We're just on the website, but at the very bottom of all of the pages, there's some other links too. There's some links to get into your expense reporting and things like that that can be helpful for members. There's links to some state government websites and constitutional officers, and other branches, A to Z list of state agencies and the state telephone directory. This I actually find pretty helpful and people don't know it's there, this legislative calendar. And it will have some major events that are affecting your work, including, I'll just flag this one while we're here. 2 weeks from today is your deadline to request a House bill in standard form. So get those requests in. If you still have ones that you want to make, you can email or.
Is that? See, I don't even know what that means.
Okay, that's good.
Standard form.
No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Okay.
So
that means
standard form is where all of the language in the bill is all written out. Short form, I think you might have been out of the room when we talked about short form.
We missed that.
Yeah,
key part.
short form is where only sort of like the key description of the bill.
Statement of purpose of the bill as included.
Thank you.
Okay.
This has the statement of purpose, and then it says text omitted in short form bills. And that's a good idea to get a good way to get an idea out there without, especially if you don't know all the specifics of what how you want to address the issue. Or if it's going to take a lot of drafting to make it work, and you just want people to think about the idea, you don't need to have everything all 75 pages drafted.
And sometimes you'll have a constituent who asks you to introduce a bill and they contact you in February and you can say, I'm sorry, but the deadline is already passed for that.
Thank you. I'm happy.
So let's wrap it up, Jen.
Yeah, I think that's really it. And that was sort of an overview of the website. You may want to watch us talk about this on YouTube.
No, I do.
Because
That was going to be my question. Oh,
Yeah,
that was going to be my question when I left, but you were busy.
Oh, yeah, this is all on
I'll
YouTube.
just ask Lori after.
Yeah.
How do I get to watch what I missed?
Okay.
That was, remember I stood here? That's why I wanted to make sure to watch it. I don't want to miss anything.
I think it will be helpful for you.
Oh, it will be. It will. Great. Thank you so much, Jen. I
so
appreciate
welcome.
you and Katie coming and doing this. And there's a lot of information out there, and it takes a while. So if you're new to the process, don't beat yourselves up about thinking like you missed something or whatever. I mean, even people who have been here for a while, like you heard me ask, like, I'm always confused about what is in the green books and what is not in the green books.
Exactly.
How do I tell that? And I'm like, an aha moment today. Pledge Council is incredibly helpful and a resource to all of us. And I say this often when other committees are like, oh, I can't reach my person. I'm like, oh, we have the best team. The Jen Katie team is honestly an awesome rock stars, right? We
Really enjoy working.
so appreciate everything that you do. So we'll be seeing both of them because they're both on our two big bills that I just talked about earlier. One is Katie and one is Jen. So
And yes, let us know if you have questions. We're happy to try to help you find things. Lori may be able to help you find some things on the website too. She's a good resource right here in the room.
yep. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So now, folks, you have the rest of the time today to work on your individual budget assignments, and let me know if you have any questions. Remember to check out the appropriations website. You can see what the department said. I noticed the health department isn't scheduled or was not scheduled this week. But they were covered in the AHS overview by Jenny Samuelson, so you can take a look there. And then the other departments, the DCF and Dale both were in this week, so you can take a look there. And as always, I am here as a resource if you need assistance. And thanks for a good week, getting our feet underneath us and spending a day and a half with judiciary. I like to give people just sort of an inclination about what's coming up next week. I'm going to try to do this from memory. So we are going to be having a Freedom of Information Act review with Tucker. We are going to be having additional time to work on our budget adjustment. Did you all see the email that I sent you last night? Did that forward you the stuff from appropriations? A reminder to connect with your appropriations team member. And you can see who those are on that sheet.
I missed it.
We will be, we'll be getting our budget adjustment recommendations, your presentation to committee on Wednesday. We need to get our memo to them by Thursday. End of business on Thursday. There is a training on the floor, I think, on Tuesday, right, Lori?
Yeah, there's a bunch listed.
I think there's a training right after floor on Tuesday before caucuses. I think, a training for everybody. We will also be doing, our oversight and accountability session. And that's going to be on the youth shelter appropriation that we did in committee in the appropriations bill last year, as well as post permanency services that was also in the bill last year. So one of those is from yours. I think post adoption permanency was in Ann's, and the youth shelter was in OEO/economic services. Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me. I never received your email.
Did other people receive my email?
The appropriation, who's our,
Yeah, so it's in your,
it's
it's
in there?
last night about
Oh.
5 something.
I must have like jumped, because I check everything, but I must have.
It's there. If other people got it, then.
Then it's here.
Well, maybe somebody can
I mean.
check your junk email if for some reason it didn't go through.
I bet your mine didn't either. Okay.
It shouldn't, since it came from a recognized member. Yeah, they don't recognize, I don't know, maybe. What else, just a second, what else we got on there, Lori?
So there's some.
It says that we're working together.
In the next day.
It says you and I are working together.
Yeah, but I don't see it.
3:45. And then Thursday, there's.
What about the governor's budget meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what?
Governor's budget.
28.
That's what this is.
Week after.
Oh, this is.
This next week.
Yeah, no, that's
There's something.
Thursday.
My
And
real.
then.
Okay, excuse me just a minute, we're
After
talking about
floor on
schedule.
Thursday, ethics rules and decorum training.
Okay,
And then you have your individual committee has discrimination prevention training after floor, right?
and do we have security next week as well?
Thursday, yeah, Thursday.
So we're gonna have a security briefing as well, with Chief Polway and the Sergeant at Arms next week as well, so any questions?
Okay.
So you couldn't find it?
I think he actually might not be on the list of our.
Human
services.
I don't see, he's not on the list.
I got your phone text, but I didn't get
You
it.
did, okay, Lori will,
Good catch.
Lori will
I will tell IT.
tell IT, yeah, I know you can't do it, but we tell IT. Thank you for letting us know that. Is Brenda on the list?
Brenda is on the list.
Okay.
I'm looking.
Okay,
I just must have missed it.
okay, that's great to know because they missed that. They,
If you-
doing